All ministers under Tinubu transferred money into private accounts, Adeyanju tells Efcc. So that is the Adeyanju now. So what are you saying now? That means all the ministers under Tinubu should be investigated. And that means that all of them must have committed some kind of infractions at some point or the other. That's what it means. So because does the policy allow individual account to be used to run government business? That is obvious conflict of interest. So how do you manage that kind of thing? And the Jade Anju that is telling the FCC this, do you have record to prove? Because it is not just to go and allege. You must find a proof. Almost all of President Bola Tinubu's cabinet members allegedly moved funds into personal accounts, according to rights campaigner Deja Adeyanju, who is located in Abuja. So only Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation Betaidu was found in violation of Adeyanju's allegation that the other ministers had broken civil service laws as well. So the constitutional attorney said that the money transfer was orchestrated by civil servants in a signed statement. So according to Daily Post, he requested that all federal ministries be the subject of an investigation by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. So a portion of the declaration says, my research on this subject indicates that every minister in Tinubu's administration moved funds into personal accounts at the recommendation of civil service personnel, mostly the permanent secretaries of their ministries. Oh boy. I have also come to find out that these civil servants deliberately get politicians and political appointees to contravene civil service laws so as to have something over their heads in order to perpetuate corruption unchallenged. So that is what Deja Adeyanju is saying now. So Deja Adeyanju write-up now is directly and obviously indicting civil service personnel, especially the permanent secretaries of their ministries, of the various ministries, because they are actually the root of corruption. And we know all that. Most political appointees actually will just come into those ministries as ignorance. That is the truth. And it is these permanent secretaries that will show them what is happening in those ministries, give them some kind of induction, work with them. And because of that, the so-called ministers in those ministries try to hold the permanent secretaries very close, like their direct competent reliefs, like they work very close because they hold the secret of the ministry. And so at the end of the day, they end up teaching the politicians how to do the thing, how to change figures, how to change reports, and how to do all the corrupt practices. Okay, and even this, and that is why the is saying that almost all the ministers have moved from funds into private accounts at one point or the other on the advice and guidance of the permanent secretaries. So it means that all ministries and all permanent secretaries should be investigated. For instance, this Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs that Betaidu used to handle and now has been suspended, they handed over that ministry temporarily to the permanent secretary to run. And if you look at the history of how Betaidu was exposed, you also see that when Betaidu raised that request to the Accountant General Federation, Accountant General did not honor it. Now she used her own power, signed it, and routed it through the permanent secretary. The permanent secretary and his people are actually the people that exposed Betaidu, that leaked that memo, that leaked everything, and then now they have put Betaidu in trouble, and now who is benefiting now? The permanent secretary. So in view of all of these, Deja Adeyanju has written to EFCC that almost all the ministers under Tinubu have moved funds into a private account and should be duly investigated, not just the ministers alone, but also the permanent secretaries and some senior servants, senior public servants in those offices should also be investigated. This, starting from the permanent secretary down to other or to the ministry accountants and all of their names as well. Because if you look at what Betaidu did, she moved the money into the account of a senior civil servant in that ministry who happens to be the project accountant in that ministry. So they move money among themselves. They know how to do it. But sometimes, if they don't want you to succeed, that's what the Jade and is trying to allege, that if you are stopping them from, getting their own and doing the corruption, they will frame you up in a way that you enter into trouble, and then you will be removed, and then they themselves will continue doing what they're doing. So they have a way of getting rid of any minister that is getting on their way. Man, so you really need to be intelligent and smart and know what you're doing, know the laws before you get involved. If not, they will put you in trouble. So, because if you look at the history of this Betaidu's case, obviously the permanent secretary and his people will not be completely exempted from this trouble. They actually put the Betaidu in this big trouble, because if they had not leaked that memo, Betaidu wouldn't have gone into trouble, and probably this crime would have just continued. But again, does it make the permanent secretary innocent, or the people working under him innocent? I doubt it. So people are already commenting on what the Jade just said, and let's see exactly what people are saying. As I said, there's no way a minister will transfer money to an account without the aid of the permanent secretary of the ministry. It is impossible. Quote me anywhere. Of course, he's the head of the ministry, actually. He's the head of the civil service in that ministry, or civil servant. So the author should take a step further by writing to Efcc with supporting documents for investigation. Yeah, I think they said he has written. Yeah, this is a criminal government. I said it. The civil servants are the architect, of course. The civil servants are the biggest problem in Nigeria today. They see the money, especially the permanent secretaries. They move money like water. So this is the worst government in Nigeria. One, with hardship. Two, with corruption and insecurity. All hail Tinubu the Jagaban. That is what This is actually, we thought Buhari government would be the worst, and we said it was the worst in the history of Nigeria, and we thought we had seen it all. But now, with what is happening under this administration of Tinubu, it means that of Buhari was just the genesis. We are yet to get to the exodus. Some say he who asserts must prove it. Be specific by mentioning their names, accounts credited, and the accounts involved. This person is coming to defend the civil servants now. But I'm sure before the Jade Anju came up by himself and writing to the EFCC alleging this, he said the investigation he did has shown that almost all the ministers under this administration had moved money. It means that he has something to show. So when the time comes, EFCC will invite him and he will show his record and they will use it to work. So let's not worry. Okay. The criminal body called the World Bank will not see the level of corruption in government in Nigeria and enjoin Tinubu to deal with it. Rather, what they are interested in is the raising of petrol price to 750 per litre, so as to further impoverish the poor and provide money for government people to steal. They are all living out the mantra, our local, it is our turn to steal. Real our local, I tell you. Real our local. So that is bitter truth, because that was their structures of criminality that Peter Obi of Labour Party was talking about. They are professional when it comes to corruption. It is just because luck runs out against the minister. What do you expect from the group of people who force themselves into power by hook or crook? Leave matter for Matthias. Poor people will pay for what the politicians are committing today. Exactly. As also not far from the truth, the civil servants who know the rules will deliberately set the trap for you to enter. Exactly. Hey, that is smart, So that permanent secretary that they have given that office to run for Betaidu, I think should also be investigated. I tell you the truth. And if Kaisan took him, he should be retired and prosecuted. Because I tell you, this Betaidu thing is not the first time. I don't know why Betaidu leaked and now she's being punished. I'm sure probably the Betaidu did not cooperate with them very well. Because if Betaidu had cooperated with them very well, I tell you this issue wouldn't have been heard of. It would have gone. So thank you for listening, and let's have a comment. That is what the Jade Anju is alleging.